Blog Talk Radio. And so it came to pass that the first to last was the first to die. And from this ash of triple stage darkness emerged the crack rock.
I do that crank rock, I make that hip hop, I make your jaw drop, break the bank and make it high. You just a has-been, who is now a has-not. You cannot stop this, you might as well jock this while I do it.
I do it cause you want it, cause I do it. I think it when I speak it, get wet by the way I freak it. What first is coming on, I feel it's lock it down. Bringing that crank rock, heaven from Brooklyn town.
Make sure when you come and bring a fist and brand, ready to put it in my hand. With a definite plan on how to make another 100, man. Never understand. Indeed, if I was a better man, I'd let you know about the white man master plan. But my people freaking, man. Doing coke and tweaking, man. Giving purple to church while they pastor steady preaching, man. They rhymes be bland with no flavor in them jam. And I'm down for the plan for the black man walking so however. My raps are too clever. Blacker than black leather. Whatever, the weather, I'm better than ever. Remember the time when we cared about our rhymes. Here to remind us of what we left behind. To this crank I do that crank rock, I make that hip hop, I make your jaw drop, break the bank and make it high. You just a has-been, who is now a has-not. You cannot stop it, you might as well jock this while I do it.
I do it cause you want it, cause I do it. I think it when I speak it, wet by the way I freak it. What first is coming on, I feel it's lock it down. Bringing that crank rock, heaven from Brooklyn town.
What you need, what you want, how much you gon' spend, how much you gon' loan, how much you gon' keep, how much you gon' tell me to sleep just goes with my underdog. Nigga, she ain't done nothing I ain't seen before. If you take away the body with the beauty show, I don't think so, so show the dough. I don't got time for dimes with no glow, don't got time for rhymes with no soul. Find out like a lonely one-woman show. Scared to be a hoe when your daddy a pimp. Always had a good year without the glim. Give you Michael Limp with your rhyme and splint. Coming from the east but my name ain't Clint. You want something new then you found it, cause you feel good when you round it. Cause I do it
cause you want it, cause I do it. I think it when I speak it, get wet by the way I freak it. What first is coming on, I feel it's lock it down. Bringing that crank rock, heaven from Brooklyn town.
I do that crank rock, I make that hip hop, I make your jaw drop, break the bank and make it high. You just a has-been, who is now a has-not. You cannot stop it, you might as well jock this while I do it.
Peace. What's up, everybody? This is Aseer, the Jugateers, giving you a shout-out on behalf of my brother, Sagasad Ali. This is Super Heru Radio. Glad to be back. Crazy stuff always going on, but I'm glad everybody, excuse me, all the human families of planet Earth is checking in. And sorry about not being able to be on last week, but due to circumstances beyond our control, it kind of got impeded. For those that don't know, basically what happened was we, consistently been doing the show and everything has been all good. But every once in a while, anybody that's called in, they know that we've had problems and what some would consider technical difficulties. Getting the show tight and basically keeping it on the air. But long story short, last week, Monday, me and the Queen are getting ready to go out with the baby, and we see our neighbor talking to this guy, but we didn't really pay it no mind other than the fact he had a hard hat on. You know what I'm saying? And there was no construction around here being done or anything like that. So, we just didn't really pay no mind or whatever, so we bounced. And then what I peeped is that he on the way out, we asked the neighbor who he was, and he said, he said he was a census worker. Well, long story short, around 7 o'clock on the dot on Monday night, which is basically 2 hours before the show, an hour before the show, everything in the crib, at least our internet and our cable connection just went out, So at first I thought it was something to do with the fuse box or whatever, but everything else was on. So as we began to investigate what the problem was to try to get it straight for the show, it just escalated. We wound up having to call the cable company, and they sent people out here on some emergency speed. And what it basically boiled down to was that somebody came and cut our line. Now, we live in a complex of over 50 apartments, but nobody else's joint was cut but ours, And then when I did the nod to the census worker, I don't know what the census worker's wearing a hard hat for. So, I took it to be what it is, which is, people trying to ball a block, but at the same time, I don't want to be or put it out there to the people that, we're on some, extra narcissistic tip, you know what I mean, because we don't do our shows in the format of a lot of other people. But regardless of who or what, this event did happen, and we just was able to kind of reconcile and see what really happened with that. And then to wit, Saga Ali, big up to Saga Side, due to aspects of, on that paper chase and getting things up for the grind, he wasn't able to do the show tonight because, you got to support the fam and unfortunately go out there and get that guap. So we've been discussing whether or not Mondays is going to be the day that we do it, because what I'm seeing is that we may have to stay kind of ahead of these people, you know what I mean? Because what went down last week wasn't cool, and I know that everybody, likes the show, and I want to, stay consistent with that, because I always want to have a forum where we all can, build on what's really going on and support each other in the interim. So, tentatively, we look like we're going to flip our time to Fridays from 9 to 11. Yet, we may hold on to the Monday slot, and I may if Saga can't do it that day, we may do it. I may do it with someone else, but, we're still doing the knowledge to it. But, again, I just want to say big up to Saga Ali based on everything that's been going down. I know it's been a lot for him also, just maintaining the grind, So we're going to basically work that out. But, again, I thank you all for your patience and your inquiries during the week. And those people who sent their support, again, man, big up. I really appreciate it, as does my brother. So, with no further ado, we should probably get into what's been going on. There's so much stuff within the past 2 weeks. I feel like whenever we miss a week, it's like, stuff happens. So everything is kind of compounded. So we'll kind of get it in as much as we can in the process. So I think one of the biggest things that everybody's talking about right now is the so-called, what do you call that? Oil slick. Okay? Everybody knows what went down and what happened, but essentially, there's so much connected to that we need to start looking, again, if you're going to really look at these ecological disasters or these type of things like that, what we got to do is we got to start doing the knowledge to who benefits from situations like that. Definitely the environment is not benefiting. Definitely the people are not benefiting, the fish, the foliage, the environment. Yet, when we do the knowledge to it, when you read a lot of the reports on it as how it just pops off, they basically saying that they was all on the rig chilling, having fun or doing a job, and then the next thing you know, there was a big explosion, and then all the oil starts gushing out. They don't know how the explosion started, wink, wink, and everything else, and then they just decided to say, well, boom, let's focus more on cleaning it up and closing it more than how it actually got destroyed in the first place.
Or the origin, right?
Or the origin of what was the catalyst for this so-called thing. First of all, this comes maybe 2 months after the so-called president put out a mandate that okayed offshore drilling off the coast of America and its territory. Now, prior to that, if any of these companies wanted to drill offshore of American companies, they would have to provide a subsidy list, meaning that they would have to provide a certain safety precautions just in case something like that was to happen. So as soon as this dude signs the offshore drilling joint, it's just funny that this thing pops off. But what's even funnier than that is the fact that when we really do the knowledge to BP Petroleum, see, if you want to find a guilty party, any researcher knows that you find the money. Because one thing about records is this. People can hide records and alter records and everything else, but the most reliable records in any society, specifically that has some type of de facto form of government, is the tax record. So when you look at the tax records or the tax return of the BP oil rig and who basically owns it and how it was set up, BP basically shares the rig. You know what I mean? It's not theirs in terms of them owning it. They actually share the rig with like 2 other petroleum companies that all basically work to dig or drill, I should say, in tandem. Now, the only problem with that is each one of these companies basically pay their own subsidy to dig, which means that each company, when they drill and they are trying to extract this oil from this underwater chasm, that means the companies basically are both working in tandem to a certain degree to facilitate that. Now, when you do the knowledge or the due diligence to what happened with these people, right, all oil rig companies, right, all of them are supposed to have in place standards to deal with a specific situation like the one that we're dealing with now. Now, that's what they're supposed to do, but these people only care about money and profit. So a lot of more money goes into figuring out more ways and better ways to drill than goes into cleaning anything up, just in case the drilling thing is not working. So essentially, this is what has been going on from the beginning of this drilling industry, from when Standard Oil, a.k.a. Rockefeller and them, was basically starting this thing up. They have not changed. The standards of the industry have not changed since the industry has really started. The only thing that has changed or maybe evolved is the technology that they use to draw up the oil and out. You dig what I'm saying? But these black budgets that these guys use to bring out this oil and everything else, that money has to not only sustain the rig, but it has to sustain the politicians up until now that were paid basically to turn a blind eye to the fact that these people don't have any safety measures in place just in case this thing goes down. So when I started doing the knowledge and looking at the tax records of the company that allegedly owns this thing, right, it took me to some other stuff, which is very interesting. I'm going to share with you right now. Okay. The company that owns the rig itself is called Transocean, okay? But Transocean is a part of another company, another dummy company called Deepwater Horizon, okay? Deepwater Horizon and Transocean basically are the companies that facilitate everything for BP Petroleum, which is British Petroleum. So we're also talking about the Crown when we're talking about this whole fiasco, okay? Now, the funny thing about the whole thing is that the entire rig, though, is owned and was built in its beginning, was erected by another company called Hyundai Heavy Company Limited Liability Partners. Now, why is that significant? That's significant because Hyundai Heavy Company Ltd. is a South Korean company. Okay? Now, because it's a South Korean company, that means that it is backed essentially by the U.S., the United States of so-called America, right? Now, the funny thing about that is that we know that South Korea and North Korea have been in what they call a Cold War since 1953, since they signed the so-called armistice between North and South Korea when it was split up along the 30th parallel, is what they called it. When they split that up, they United States basically used South Korea as the puppet state. Russia, China used North Korea, and it's been that way ever since to this day. Now, you remember a couple of months ago, there was a hit where an American fighter or American boat or whatever was sunk by a North Korean vessel. Analogous to that, which went under the radar, was that a United States F-16 shot down a North Korean jet, right, on maneuvers or whatever over Southeast Asia. Over Asia. So what we're looking at basically is another extension of this Cold War, because as some people in BBC, when you check the BBC, there's another site you could check called whatisitmean.com, and a couple of other sites. You can holler at me individually, and I'll give them to you. I just don't want to blow them up because I know, sometimes these sites will be created and the info will go out, and then mad people will hit it, and then they'll yank it off the net. So when you really do the knowledge to it, the FSB, which is the Russian intelligence service, is basically saying that the whole thing was something different. Now, if you remember when the Haitian earthquake went down, North Korea sent, as well as Russia, as well as China, sent a lot of so-called aid by way of the Dominican Republic, as well as to Cuba, as well as to Venezuela, to allegedly aid the Haitian thing. Now, the Haitian by the United States, as we know, as a op, another means of war, because now that they got to move out of Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, you know what I'm saying, they need another beachhead just in case, so that way they can continue their war in South America. So essentially what really went down, according to some of these other reports I've been reading, was that one of these corps that was sent from North Korea with allegedly under the cover of aid to Haiti, basically docked in Cuba. This corps is called the 17th Sniper Corps, right? And what it is the 17th Sniper Corps is basically a bunch of mini submarines that are kind of like built like the U-boats that that the Germans was using in World War II. These are real fast, very small submarines that have, a limited crew, that have real deep water capabilities, but because they're smaller, they're more for like hit and run attacks. The sub that allegedly that was docked in Cuba, according to BBC as well as Reuters, was SSC-Sang 0 O-class mini sub, which again is like a Stinger type of like small mini nuke sub that can go out, hit you, and then keep it moving. While the big subs, the big submarines that the big Typhoon class and things like this, that a lot of these that we see in movies like Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide and stuff, those ones are kind of for major offenses. These are more for like offensive attacks. So the story is that this submarine left Havana, Cuba, on its way to Venezuela for repairs, but halfway through, you know what I'm saying, according to the satellite reports, it diverted its course and moved the opposite and started going into the opposite direction, which parked itself maybe about 209 kilometers away from the rig. 209 is symbolic because a lot of torpedoes arm past 200 miles. Like, shoot a torpedo out of a submarine, the missile is not armed until it reaches a certain vector. Once it hits that vector, it arms itself, and then it goes into the impact. Usually the distance is 150 to 200 kilometers. You know what I'm saying? So essentially what wound up happening, and this was also 50, and then remember that the rig is like 50 miles off the coast of Louisiana. So essentially what we're saying is that this sudden explosion that allegedly rocked this oil rig that caused all of this major ecological damage and everything was basically hit by a torpedo, and they can't really tell nobody that this is what's going down, because then they would have to then admit that, this Cold War that they've been going against China and Russia through North and South Korea has now gone above ground. You know what I mean? It's now become an overt war, which they really can't afford to let the people know. This is why, if you notice, they haven't really even been talking about North Korea since this thing went down, because they don't want to give the public any inkling that something like this is going down. The other reason why these people can't cap it is because they don't know if the damn submarines are still out there. You see what I'm saying? If they don't know if they're still out there, and they try to go in and try to cap it up, and it's there, it's going to create another hole. So they got special forces and these people out there, really diligently looking for this thing. Because this is why, and because they don't have no contingency plan how to deal with what happened, you know what I mean, to the point these people talking about stuffing a hole with, golf balls and rubber tires and stuff. Like, these people are totally infantile with the decision making when it comes to this thing, and the only thing that's happening is that it's getting progressively worse. So because they're scared that somebody's going to come in there and basically, torpedo them again, they don't really know how they're going to do that. So they need Americans' help, or they need the Army's help to come in there and make that happen. So the Army Corps of Civil Engineers have been activated to basically come up with a contingency plan to deal with this, as so ordered by the so-called president. So this thing, as it's getting progressively worse, is to the point now where the people who are the most affected, the people, let's say, in Louisiana and these places that where these tar balls are starting to, these oil balls are starting to wash up, they are getting progressively more confined, because there's also a heavy military presence now, but the military is not telling the people what's going on. And I know because where we live off of Miami Beach, so all we keep seeing is military helicopters, military carriers or whatever, flying towards the direction of this thing, which is basically on the other side of Florida from where we are. But now that the wind direction has changed, they're scared that the oil slick now is going to go around the Horn of Florida, around the bend of Florida, up now towards the East Coast, which then means that it's going to be on two sides of the ocean, In the east, is the Atlantic, and the west is the Pacific. So we really got to start doing the knowledge. So don't be surprised all of a sudden you start seeing like a lot of people start advertising ways to clean your water from the oil and all of this other thing, because Halliburton is now stepped in. And Halliburton is now working with BP. And Halliburton and BP is basically trying to come up with a so-called solution, which I don't know how they're going to do with these mini subs all over the place now. But this also shows you how close this World War III/4 thing is starting to hit. The other messed up part about this thing is that that specific area in the Gulf, you have a lot of it's a migratory place for a lot of rare and exotic type of birds and animals and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So this basically, if anybody can remember the Exxon Valdez, see, the Exxon Valdez, when that went down, was a little different, because where it crashed, was almost like a cul-de-sac. So all the oil kind of just went into that one area. So they was able to basically tool it out, you know what I'm saying, by just going into the one little cul-de-sac where it was done. This thing is in a total opposite vein. This thing is like all over the place now. So we really got to start to do the knowledge. I've been researching different ways or different, different ways to suck oil up and things like that. So we went to this drummer circle the other day, and one of the people there was talking about how they have this moss stuff, or this moss that only grows in Canada, that when the Canadians had a little oil problem like that, they used, and what it is they put the moss, this specific type of moss, over this slick or whatever, and what it does is it not only cleans the water, but once it sucks up the oil, the moss itself begins to oxidize, and it turns back into oxygen and basically starts to dissipate itself, which to me is a real good way to get rid of this stuff. But, you know, powers that be, they don't want nothing to get clean once they dirty it up, you know what I'm saying? So I think one of the things we can do is start, as individual scientists, is begin to look for ways of our own to start to clean up stuff like this, because we cannot rely on the powers that be to do anything for that situation. You know what I'm saying? Because again, these are the same people that screwed it up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how they're gonna really now want to clean it up. But, you know, that's just one aspect. So long story short, it was another hit. You know what I mean? This is a part of a long armistice war that's been going on between North and South Korea, which is really fronting for the United States, China, and Russia. The war that's been going on between them. And most of the humanitarian stuff that's going on about that is basically double-edged sworded, because, again, these people are working in tandem with the same elements that help destroy the planet in the first place. So what I would suggest we do as individual scientists, as moral scientists, as original people, who are basically really going to be the ones to inherit all of this stuff, we have to find ways or systematic ways to begin to deal with things like this, because this is going to affect everyone. You understand what I'm saying? And every so often, if you do the knowledge, every so often there's always some type of disaster like this to show and prove the fallacy of using the type of fossil fuels and stuff that these people are using to allegedly power everything. You know what I'm saying? Most of the fuels that are being used by the United States as well as the industrialized nations prior to them being established were outlawed in what we would call the old world. You know what I'm saying? Yet, because everything that these people do is based on hostile takeover, you know what I mean? You got to do the knowledge that everything that is done is being done systematically for a reason, to purposely destroy the ecosystem of this planet even further. Okay? This is just what it is, you know? Another aspect, so that was that with that. I believe the name of the moss is called peat. I think it's called like peat moss or something like that. You know what I mean? P-E-A-T, moss or something like that. But you could do the knowledge to it, and I think there's even sites now that's trying to sell it. You know what I mean? For a certain amount of quantity. Now the thing is that we know about this, and we're just regular people. You know that these bastards know about it, but don't think you're going to hear them even mention that shit. Because, again, there's a part of them that don't want to clean this thing up. They want it to get progressively worse, because it's going to cause more and more friction between the United States and North Korea. And really what North Korea and China want is to make this covert war turn to an overt war, you know, which nobody's really going to benefit from. Because everybody talk about, you know, how the Illuminati this, Illuminati that. But since Obama got in, a lot of countries have now been rebelling against that shit. Specifically Japan and China. Japan specifically, they're not trying to RFID chip they populace. You know what I'm saying? So, remember, this is a war against the universal Mother, Father, God that we call Earth. You know what I mean? That we are all representatives of. So we got to find ways to band together and get this thing. We got to find a way to deal with it. Another thing in news that has gone down was Obama. I don't even like saying that nigga's name. The so-called president, excuse me, has put out a edict. He put out an edict against Procter & Gamble. Okay? Now, Procter & Gamble is one of the oldest companies in the United States as a corporation, as well as the fact that Procter & Gamble were responsible for supplying the United States military during the Civil War. One of the things they did, first of all, P&G was founded in 1837, right? And it was the biggest supplier of soap, right? It started with soap and candles. This is the biggest thing that they did in the world. So around the time that television started, Procter & Gamble was the biggest advertiser in the world. Okay, bigger than McDonald's, bigger than everybody else. This is what they advertised, right? So because soap was the founding product that started them up with, when television started, what they began to do was fund some of the radio programs that used to, some of the early television programs that used to come on, and they were always dramas. So eventually, because they were always supplied by Procter & Gamble products like Tide and different soaps, right, they started calling these things soap operas. This is where the term soap opera started. So the soap operas basically blew up from the fact that Procter & Gamble was supplying all these different products to the people. So they became a base staple, what they would call a staple corporation, meaning that they were almost not only self-sufficient, but they also put money into the infrastructure of the military, the republic military, not the federal military, okay? The federal government that we understand now calls itself a democracy. That's how you know that this is not the original federal government that started the country when the country was a republic. Procter & Gamble founded the military that was attached to the republic in the beginning. But after 1933 and a lot of that stuff changed, they still made sure that they, supplied the military with a certain degree of money. Now, ever since your president got in there, your president basically is what's called a bagman. And what his job is to give people the lowest deal possible and then flip the deal on them after they agree to it, right? So he's already destroyed he started with the auto industry, started with the banking industry, right? Where he basically retooled and shut that down and now has made the federal government a part owner in things like AIG, Goldman Sachs, whatever. Then he shut down the healthcare thing. Everybody wants jobs or the economy, so what he does, he switches gears like all politicians do and starts talking about shit that really wasn't broke, which is that the death care system that he's now instituted that has a lot of euthanasia tenets to it. So, boom, that was the banking industry shut down. Auto industry shut down. Now, the healthcare industry shut down. Auto industry taken over, shut down. They blackmailed the guys into Toyota. All of that was about corporate espionage. How is it that Toyota had the highest level of sales that they ever had in their whole history in the United States of making cars here or whatever, but during that same time that they had the highest months, they had the most deaths in the car. That's what you call a black op. That is them fattening up these people and driving up their prices so that way when they crash to the bottom, they can come in and buy all the Toyota stocks and everybody up for pennies on a dollar. So boom, he done destroyed the auto industry, the banking industry, the healthcare industry. Now he's getting ready to go into the military. You know what I mean? So once the military thing is shut down, because people also don't know that there's certain factions within the military that don't acknowledge him as the president of the United States, the same way they didn't acknowledge George Bush as that. Because technically he was not born as a naturalized citizen of the United States because he cannot produce a naturalized birth certificate, which means, again, that he's a bagman. You see what I'm saying? So, long story short, what this dude did to Procter & Gamble was that he now was forcing aspects of his corporate military to go in and try to socialize P&G, meaning that he's trying to bring it under some type of government control. So what he did was he ordered that they become a part of Citigroup, the same Citigroup that was responsible for the stimulus packages that ain't really helped nobody, and worse, has plunged the so-called American economy down into the upwards of over $18 trillion. He now is trying to get them to sign up with them. When he did that, the stock market crashed 1,000 points in that 1 second because all the investors at P&G froze their assets and started pulling out of the company because they understood that now that he was on his way to socialize the one corporation that technically was not under the jurisdiction of all the other ones, they realized now it's time to go, which then caused what they call a pullback in the so-called bear market, and just basically just decimated the market again to 1,000 points. Now, anytime you have a market that crashes that frequency, you don't really have a market. That's not something that's sustainable. You understand? Yet they are still trying to tell people that they have the means to sustain the economy. Now, this is also connected to another thing with P&G is they funded the expansion of the Russian fleet, the Russian expedition fleet, during between 1863 and 1864 that protected the United States from the British troops that was poised to invade during the Civil War. There's a movie called National Treasure, Book of Secrets, Part 2, and they talk about the correspondences between the British, between Queen Elizabeth in England and members of the so-called Confederate States who were basically brokering a deal to allow Britain to come in and help them against the so-called United States. So P&G put up the money to the Russians, who at the time was trying to expand their own naval forces. This is between 1863 and 1864. He gave it to the Russians, and then the Russians used their fleet to push the British back and kept the British from invading America. And again, that was Procter & Gamble that put the money up for that. So technically, they've always kind of been down with the Republic of the United States. It's just that. And again, I'm not advocating for any corporations. Super Heru Radio does not advocate any corporations. I'm just saying that of P&G was the best of the worst. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, the same day that this goes down, a tornado, right, winds up hitting Oklahoma, but it starts in Norman, Oklahoma, right? And then 3 other tornadoes converge over this place called Lake Thunderbird. Then these tornadoes, coupled with the floods, basically ravaged all of Nashville. Nashville right now looks worse than Katrina. But this is what those people get. Not saying the poor people, because I mean, there's poor white people just like you got poor black people. I'm talking about the negative karma of all the Katrina dead that went down with that. Because nobody came to our aid in that case, now symbolically this has now happened to the birthplace of Nashville, the birthplace of so-called country music, which again is one of the biggest forms of mind control music on the planet. Taylor Swift, Garth Brooks, Chris Gaines, all these guys, all of them is in it. You know what I'm saying? Also, excuse me, the other thing about Nashville that's funny is that after the flood, after all that stuff went down, they let the white folk go back to their homes, whereas in Katrina, the black folk was barred from going back to the neighborhoods and still are, and they started dispersing them by putting them in the Astrodome and all that. They didn't do this to these white folks in Nashville, and Nashville's actually looked worse than Katrina did. So again, we letting you know the difference between, you know, what's good for them, what's good for the goose ain't always good for the gander, you know. But because of all of the strife that's happening throughout the country, things like these tornadoes and everything, for that first tornado to touch down over Norman, Pennsylvania, we know that the Normans were the Franks, and the Franks were the French Moors, or the Franciscan Moors, right? And then the Thunderbird, you already see the symbolism in that. So these are some of the things that, how a lot of these things are interconnected. Because when one intent goes awry, they have to try to piggyback it with another one, but it's still not happening. At the same time, all of this stuff is going on. You got the Arizona thing. Now, the Arizona immigration thing is really symbolic because that's really about nationality. That has really nothing to do with immigration. This is about stopping Mexican nationals. You know what I'm saying? And stopping Mexican nationals from basically taking back the southern part of the United States, which would be Arizona, California, parts of Texas or whatever. Now, the thing about the Arizona thing is this. Mexico has no real government right now. Because it doesn't have any government, the same drug cartels that were funded during the Reagan era, during the Iran-Contra fiasco, those same drug cartels, the same ones that all of the rappers talk about, and Scarface and all this other thing, those drug dealers evolved their business to the point that they became the shadow government of the Mexican national identity. And what they would do is they would manipulate the government through rashes of kidnapping. There's a movie called Man on Fire with Denzel Washington that shows you aspects of that. Mark Anthony's character was one of these people involved in these cartels or whatever. But anyway, these cartels who were funded and financed by Reagan and them, really we're talking about CIA ops or whatever, they funded them and trained them, taught them how to make the drugs and everything else, and even helped them move it up here to help destabilize the moral infrastructure of the so-called United States, mainly to corrupt white America, because black America had already been inundated with crack and all of that from the early to mid-'80s. So white America now in the 90s were the ones who jumped on all of the drugs that the black folks got themselves clean from, crack, you know what I'm saying, heroin, and all that other stuff. And then what the white folks did was they made it trendy. When you hear terms like heroin chic or drug zombies or drug fashion, like this became a mantra for them because this is another way for them to market the Mexican drugs. The CIA also, what they also did was they funded a lot of the disgruntled, unemployed workers in Mexico that were, a lot of them were institutionalized in the prisons, and they helped create a neo-Nazi type of gang called the MS-13, whose main purpose was to terrorize a lot of the black populace in the so-called West. You know, we got a lot of the aseers and things like that. So their purpose was to basically put a lot of the black gangs, you know what I mean, the lopes, try to basically lock them down because they figured that they were the black gangs were the only real competition for them. So they figured they would terrorize them with Nazi tactics through these MS-13 dudes and then use them with the Mexican mafia basically to inundate the West and the Midwest, these new, retooled, totally psychotic Mexican gangs. So these gangs have been basically beheading people or whatever all along the border, kidnapping mad people, you know, just wilding out. But again, all of this wilding out is so that way the drug Mexican cartels who are now running the Mexican government basically can maintain a position of power now as the main government of Mexico. So with that being said, the Arizona immigration bill that is now turned into, or Arizona schools are now banning all ethnic studies. Like you can't talk about nothing. Because the thing is, these Mexicans that are in these groups are heavily politicized, number one. Number two, they're very organized. And again, they got their own language. So the United States can't really stop them. Because remember, the United States, there's people with United States government that want this type of anarchy to go down on the border states. Because remember, this 2012 thing that these people believe, they believe that they need to be down where the Mayan calendar is at. So they figured they would get all of the Mexicans out of Mexico, and while they up here killing all the Americans, these fake Illuminati people can go down by the temples and the pyramids and then set themselves up, you know what I'm saying, and try to get whatever blessings for it. It's not going to work, but this is what they do. So now that the government is coming out against, so case in point, the whole state of California has now boycotted the entire state of Arizona. Now, we already know that Arizona is the only state in the union that didn't recognize the so-called Martin Luther King holiday. It's also the only state, it's also the state that Chuck D and them made their song, By the Time I Get to Arizona, one of the realest songs about racism in America ever done. We also know that Arizona was one of the few states in the West, other than Texas, that was still down with the slavery thing. So really what we're seeing is the governor of Arizona, who by chance also is a Tea Party member. What we're seeing is the first couple of shots being fired in the Second Civil War that's on its way now in the United States. But this Civil War is going to be based on race. You know what I'm saying? It has to be, because that's the only... People will talk about racism and racial angst and stuff during the Civil War, but the Civil War really wasn't about racism. The Civil War was about the transfer of ownership, because the word emancipate comes from the Latin term emancipato, which means to transfer ownership. So, and when anybody, any scholar that has actually sat down and read the Emancipation Proclamation can really attest to that, because there's nowhere in that thing that says that he freed anyone, okay, because he couldn't. Why? Because those amendments that were put forth during the Civil War were war amendments, meaning that these were amendments that were only negotiated to stand analogous to the Constitution during the state of emergency. So all they did and have been doing since 1865 is perpetuating a constant state of emergency. They never rescinded those war amendments. So a lot of them are still in effect, even though they're illegal. But again, you're dealing with a country that is under the jurisdiction of colorable law, i.e. it has the appearance of law, it sounds like law, they prosecute it like law, but it has nothing to do with law. Because the people who are doing it are what they would call creatures of law, which is an actual legal definition. Look it up. A creature of law is anyone who advocates, administrates, or adjudicates colorable law. So that's an attorney. So all attorneys, judges, they're creatures. You understand? Or they are seen as creatures by this democratic, a.k.a. demonicratic government. So, be careful. You know what I mean? So all of our Mexican listeners or people who are from a Mexican or whatever, don't bang on the original people here, man, because we're your grandfathers and grandmothers. You know what I'm saying? To keep it real, the Olmeca people, the Hoetacan, the Tomoancan, that's all us. So if you want to bang on these crackers, then, do what you need to do. But you can't bang on poor people that ain't got much more than you, man. You know what I'm saying? That's just my 2 cents on that. Another thing that I was doing the knowledge to, people are not really doing knowledge to, those people who are involved in things like the stock market and things like that. You should really do the knowledge between, there's a book you could get called Sunspots, GDP and the Stock Market by a guy named Theodore Modis, M-O-D-I-S. And what is really going on with the stock market? The stock market was created basically to follow the up and down sides of solar activity. So how do we build on that? We build on that by understanding how stocks, you know what I'm saying, are connected to peak solar periods. There's from 1600 to 1712, right? There was an ice age, from 1600 to 1868, there was an ice age in Europe, specifically and only in Europe. They'll never tell you that, but this is what happened. And that ice age basically created a vacuum in Europe that could only be done away with once that period was done. So what began to happen in Europe, at least with the Medici family, is that they were the first ones to institute what we would consider a modern-day stock market. They were the ones who basically set up a merchant house, because that's what they started as. They called them merchant houses. And these merchant houses basically started based on the solar frequency and the solar winds that were being calculated at the time were used as the basis for the fluctuations and spikes in the market, right? The first person in history to really do the knowledge to this was a Greek guy named Meton, right? And actually he wasn't Greek, he was Minoan, which means that he was a black Greek. And this is around 400 BC. He was the first one to do the knowledge to the correspondence between the sunspots and the climate. So then around the time of the Medici family, let's say between 1638 and 1775, they took what Meton did and basically applied it as a means for them to be able to generate funds for the fledgling Morisco Republic that was still flourishing in places like Florence and Venice and things like that. So they were the ones who got the people to basically bid on different crops and things like that, and then bet the average on that to see, how much money they can make off of the speculation. Okay? That then was taken, after the Medici family fell, was taken by force. That whole concept was taken by force to Albion, which we now call England, and that's when they instituted what we now today call the second version of the stock market, which was now more a westernized version. Okay? So one of the things they found was that stocks should never be invested during peak solar periods, meaning that when the solar winds and solar flares and stuff are up, stocks go down. When solar activity is low, stocks go up. That's just correspondingly how it is. But now correspondence doesn't always imply causation, meaning that just because something correlates to the other thing, it doesn't mean that they both have the same cause. Yet, again, we're talking about more as science as the foundation of something. So the truest aspects of the market, people are not really even tuned into. People don't realize that there's a form of economics that Ronald Reagan created called voodoo economics, also called trickle-down economics, that basically created a situation for them to keep money at the top and then give the crumbs to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? All of these things basically were, activated around that time. There's another guy named Ralph Nelson Elliott, and he was the guy who basically came up with the whole thing about the stock market and the charts and the sunspots. He put it in a book called what's the name of his book? The Wave Principle. And in the Wave Principle, he basically hypothesized that there's 13 patterns that reoccur and are repetitive, whereby the structures that link the stock market and the people and the solar winds together form larger versions of the same pattern. These patterns are called Elliott waves, named after this guy, Ralph Nelson Elliott. The formation of these is made from what we would call maybe 5 subwaves. So 5 subwaves have to come up first, you know what I mean, in order for the trend in the market to go up, right? So the marketing trending in direction. So the 5 subwaves that propel the market in what they call a trending direction is called the motive wave, okay? M-O-T-I-V-E wave. Every one of the 5 subwaves serves 2 functions. It's either action or reaction. So an actionary wave promotes the cause of the wave of a larger degree. So that would mean that when you look at a graph or stock markets, how they show you, whenever you see the graph going up, that's an actionary wave, okay? Because that promotes the cause of a wave to a larger degree, meaning that the graph itself is going up, meaning the stock market, meaning that whatever stock that you're bidding on or speculating on is going up at the same time. A reactionary wave, though, basically is an interrupting wave that interrupts the progress of the wave of one of the larger degrees. So it's the opposite. So we now are on what they call a downward reactionary wave cycle. So the 5 pulse motive waves go from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The actionary waves deal on odd numbers only. 1, 3, 5, 7, you know what I mean? And with the even numbers being, like I said, 2, 4, and 6. So essentially, there is no real way that they can salvage the market because the way that the solar patterns are emitting now, the bigger the solar winds and waves are, the lower the market is going to tank. Because remember, the people that work the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ and all that stuff, all of them practice this type of voodoo economics in which they are always speculating that they will be on top and everybody else is going to be at the bottom. This is why we have things like secured mutual funds, MRAs, 401k, all of that stuff is tied up in the market. If the market totally tanked and there's nothing in it, then all of that stock, all of that stuff that you're working with is not going to do anything for you. Okay? So really do the knowledge. And then another thing is there's 2 markets they call the bull market and the bear market. A bull market begins with the advance from a final bottom out, meaning that once you tank out on something, everybody puts more money into it, and then the stocks go back up. But if the market makes a fourth run, meaning that if it goes down, goes up, goes down, and goes up again, the fourth run to new highs, it's important to watch for a change in the trend in the fourth high, meaning that it's not going to get any higher because it's already reached the peak of that solar cycle. Understand? So we're now in, I think, solar cycle 24. So this thing is just getting progressively worse. So anybody with money in the market, you should really do the knowledge. There's some studies you can read on this further. I wrote some of them down, I think, that people can go and check out. I gave you the Sunspots GDP in the stock market by Theodore Modis. There's another study that somebody did that I read that was very interesting on this truth. It's called Methods in Molecular Biology, Volume 57, published on January 22nd, 1996, by a guy named Peter M. Glazer, Glazer. In comedic news, it's funny that there was a guy named Lord Jesus Christ who got hit by a car the other day. Hey, what's up, y'all? Back again. We're going to try it one more time, see if we can get somebody on the line. Not here. That's one thing. I know what we can do. Let me see something. Click out. Okay, that's what you want. Hello, this is Super Heru Radio. You on the air? Hello, this is Super Heru Radio. You on? Hello, this is Super Heru Radio. You on the air? This is Super Heru Radio. Hello, you on the air?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's up, Morris?
Hey, Steve, what's going on, man?
What's up, boss? What's going on, man?
Ain't nothing much.
All right, for everybody, what's up? For everybody to know, this is Brooklyn Morris Intelligence saying what's up.
What up, it's Morris Brooklyn.
How
Yeah,
you,
peace
man?
to you and the Queen, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Good to hear you, man.
The brother in the back, they're doing alchemy.
Yeah, you hear him, right? Yeah, right. He tired of people trying to shut down his pop show, you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
So how you, man?
Census Ninjas. Everything good.
That's what's up.
Yeah, did you hear about what this dude, Bill Gates, is doing?
No, let us know, man. What's up?
He has 2 great projects he's working on. One, he just funded some agency. They have a great plan to make a device with chemicals that could basically create what they call white clouds, so that these white clouds could reflect sunlight coming from the sun.
So basically these clouds basically make sunlight go back into space as opposed to feeding the plants.
Allegedly, in the hopes of saving, quote-unquote, humanity. But isn't this the same thing we saw in, huh?
What are you saying, save humanity from the sun?
Allegedly, yeah.
Okay. Sound like that movie Sunshine. You ever see that movie?
Yep. Also, Animatrix.
Yeah, Animatrix as well. Yeah, where they scorch the sky. That makes sense, though.
Then the next project.
To me, though, that sounds like it's connected to the Blue Beam thing.
Right.
Because Operation Blue Beam is them making parts of the ionosphere very hard, similar to how they do it with HAARP. Only thing is, after they do that, what they plan to do is beam images of whatever people's religion or whatever type of space fake invasion they want to front like is going on. They put them in there like that, so that way they broadcast the shit in the sky, and then people watching the shit go down, they think it's real, when really it's just a bunch of holograms. Kind of like watching a movie, but instead of the projector being just a screen, it's like they projecting it on the clouds.
Right, and if you do the knowledge to that too, in order for you to make that type of so-called white cloud, is both sides is going to be reflecting things. So they don't have to really beam out all the way to the ionosphere anymore. Now it could be real, local.
Oh, great. So they could just make a certain portion of the sky over a certain place, whatever, that hard to keep sunlight from getting to the plants, the trees, the animals, the water, the people. Okay, thanks, Bill.
Or if you turn on HAARP, now you could have basically different pinpoint spots you could piggyback on.
True indeed.
The
Only
next
problem with the HAARP thing. No, go ahead.
Now the next so-called project now, he just gave $100,000 plus to another research team, right? His great plan is that this research team came up with a great idea that they could use ultrasound to target men's testicles as a way of doing wireless conception.
Wireless castration?
Castration, right.
Like making niggas impotent.
Right. So instead of using, this crazy, ridiculous condom and different crazy techniques, we could just beam waves to your testicles now.
To your testes, and stop the babies before they even come out.
All right. In the hopes of helping humanity.
People don't know. For people who don't know, Bill Gates his father was a person who started Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was a Nazi organization, a Nazi Hitler Youth type organization that was transplanted to America after Operation Paperclip brought all of them damn Nazis over here. So he is basically just descended from and doing what it is he's supposed to do, which is maintain the Hitler Youth Support Program over here in America. That's very interesting, brother. Thanks for hollering at us on that, man.
No doubt.
I'm gonna do some more knowledge to that, man.
Also in comedy news, these people, boy, James Cameron, he went to South America in the rainforest, and he painted himself up as a native, and he participated in one of their circle dance.
Or one of their rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because he now is trying to help humanity so that a certain rainforest won't get cut down.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, he's announcing that the next Avatar movie now is going to deal with beings underneath the water simultaneously.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, though. He's already trying to, but do the knowledge, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
So then do the knowledge, though, how it's going to be that this guy does that type of shit. Well, we'll see. Thanks for that call, Morris Brooklyn.
No doubt,
really
brother.
Appreciate it.
Peace to you, Nick Queen, and the brother Asar.
Indeed. Peace to the fam, man. See you in New York sooner than later. Hotep.
Peace.
Hello, you're now live on Super Heru Radio.
Hey, what's good?
Hey. Hey, what's up, King? Peace. What's up, Jody? Hello? Hello?
Peace.
Peace, G. What's going on? We hear you.
Okay, that's what's good. Man, I was just peeping the show, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm on the West Coast. We over here in Seattle.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, my brother.
Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even expect on getting all that. You know what I'm saying? I was just peeping you out on the hip hop tip, man. You know what I'm saying? I was feeling your vibe on the hip hop tip on a couple of things. So, you know, I just checked you out. You're a philosopher, you know, a scholar, hot mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't leave out any jobs, did you?
I appreciate the support, my brother. I really do.
Yeah.
Like
you know that I like to get with you on some hip hop stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? Just you know what I'm saying, where can we go pick up, you know what I'm saying, some of your, you know, your music, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes after the lecture you just like to, you know, hear what's going on.
Yeah, I'm with.
What's that?
I'm with that, man. You can email me at houseofl@hotmail.com. That's HOUSEOFEL@hotmail.com. And I could just, you know, chat with you personally.
Okay. That's what's up. All right, Pete. You know what I'm saying? I'll let you get to your show, brother, and you know what I'm saying, we'll sit back and listen on, you know. Yeah, we was rolling in the car, so that's why it was kind of, you know, odd when you came on, because it was like, okay, you talking this, you know, you came out throughout the speakers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's all good.
No, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Well, wherever y'all going, man, get there safe. You know, watch out for Smokey. You know what I'm saying? And just holler at me whenever you can, you know?
Yeah. So I'll be able to go check this. You're gonna, you know, this is gonna be up on the board or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I can go back and.
Yeah, it's gonna be on the Blog Talk joint, probably after tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Peace. Hotep.
Peace, G. Hotep King.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Hello? You on Super Heru Radio? I'll find it. It's around here. I'll find it. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio? Can you hear me? Guess not. Try another one. Peace. You rocking with Super Heru Radio. Hello?
Peace. What's happening, man?
Peace. What's poppin',
What's going on, man? Man?
Good.
How you feeling, man? Great, man.
I'm good, King. How you
Compton, man. What's up, brother?
How's everything out there, man?
Oh, man, everything is lovely, man. We getting this rain coming down right now. You know what I'm saying? And
wow.
You know, I'm about to twist one up, and you know.
Yeah, that's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. You know how we do it. How you feeling, though, brother? I see they always trying to shut you down, man.
Yeah, you know, we doing our best, man. You know, not taking it personal, just taking it and keeping it moving, you know?
Yes, sir.
You got any questions I could ask for you tonight?
Yes, sir. Real quick question, man. I'm a school teacher out here, right? And just trying to do the knowledge, man, on the public school system, because the school system out here in L.A. really it's on its last leg, and the charter school movement is really pushing a major breakthrough in. I actually work for one of the major charter organizations out here. But I want to do the knowledge on the public school system in terms of, like, the history behind it, who's behind it, you know what I'm saying, why it's in the position that it's in, because it's really in a dismal position. What we're really seeing is a whole new paradigm shift in the whole educational process, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're seeing these teachers wild out on the kids and having sex with them and beating them up in school and all of that.
Right.
That's a good question.
That's real. Hey, I'll be honest with you, man. Some of these kids do need their ass beat, for real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
out of spirit of love, though. You know what I mean? Because they come in hopped off that, man. They be off them hot Cheetos and all that candy and everything, and they see me, man. I walk up in there with the alkaline water with the magnets up in it. You're like, what's this? What's that?
That's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? And just giving it to them. You see what I'm saying? You know, so I just really see, like, you got to be, when you're amongst a situation like that, you have to really so much be the total opposite of what's going on.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? As far as
or become what they call a polar complement, meaning that you know what's going on, but as opposed to being an opposite force, you act more like a reed in the wind, meaning that you'll bend but you don't break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know what you mean. I know what you mean about the public school system too. Essentially, all so-called education that we understand now, so all education that we have so now has been so messed up. We have to understand that it's a purposeful thing. The original public school system that we understand now is based on an old type of system that came after.
You're supposed to be in the bed. Sleep.
Somebody else on the line. Hold on. 1 second. Yeah, can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Essentially, there were these things called the Moorish Indian schools that started popping up all over the country. This is after the last so-called Indian Wars, and these schools were basically made to re-educate, and actually they were initially supposed to be created to educate the original people as to what was really going on with the transition in terms of going from one section of the populace, going from an indigenous, let's say, ideology to a more modern understanding. But the schools were co-opted by people like Thaddeus Stevens and a couple of other people, and they were turned into basically indoctrination camps. And these indoctrination camps through Thaddeus Stevens, who was mandated by Rockefeller to redo American history 720 degrees, it turned it into a situation of moral degradation when it came to the education of anybody that wasn't in the caste of white. Whereas the Caucasian children were now on the benefit or the upsurge because now the history was being written in their favor, in which they were no longer seen. They were seen that the immigrants who were now these white kids that were coming in were actually the true Americans, and the so-called natives and aboriginal people that was already here were basically mud people who were wasting the land, and now that the white man has come, everything is better. So the basic premise of those schools has not changed. I mean, I taught at a school where they were still reading from textbooks from 1955. You know what I mean? This is in Brooklyn, a school I was in, you know.
Okay.
So in being a teacher, I know you see all of that stuff, but what I started to acknowledge was that you can't really do anything within a fictitious system. Those systems have to kind of be allowed to teach themselves out, while the other real natural way of teaching through people like what we're doing, through, you know, community activism, things like that, those are the ways for these things to come more into being, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to anything else. So, you know, know, you definitely are in it, but don't feel. But I know what it's like to be in these situations, to watch your children, not your children, but our people's children become more and more degraded. However, anybody that's still okay with sending their children to regular school based on everything, every day is something new with it. So unless what I'd be telling parents to do is create a document in which it lists all of the things that this school is going to guarantee your child, and get everybody in the school that is part of the administrative fast, going from the principal on down, to sign it. If they don't want to sign it, then you shouldn't have to send your child. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
It's more than one way to do it. Because if they can't guarantee the safety of your child, what the hell are you sending your child in the first place for?
Yes, sir.
You know,
yes,
so
sir.
we got to start taking more of an active participation in education of our children, and we have to create schools, charter schools, home schools, Montessori schools, whatever type of school, even if it's a basement. Because the funny thing is that prior to integration, our children were per capita smarter than all of the children, than these so-called white children that had the privilege. Once we got into integration, our test scores fell. So when we had less money, less funding, less books, less teachers, less everything else, our children were actually smarter. Now we have it all. Exactly, because we was doing it by ourselves. So until we go back to that modus operandi, our children are going to continue to be terrorized like this little kid that was beat up by the dyke teacher that you've seen on the news for the past couple of days.
Yeah, man, you saw that. That was a cold situation right there, boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an op, man.
You said, wow.
Say that again.
Wow, no, I was saying you said that was an op right there, huh?
Yeah, that was an op. Because again, what you saw was a black woman preying on a little black boy. And now, when they do the interviews, you see this black woman who's flanked by her white lawyers that now have to protect this black child who's there with his white lawyers. So really what you're watching is a play against the black woman and her son and her children. They're showing you that she is now the terrorizer of the child. That's why you see all of these murders with all of these black women killing everything. But nobody is talking about, the fact that mothers are now turning into these mommy dearest prototypes based on the abuse or whatever it is they get allegedly from men. But nobody's dealing with that. But now it's going to become the forefront, because now the woman has to be looked at as a terrorist as well.
Wow, right. I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
So
yes,
brother.
Hey, yes, sir, brother. Yeah, hey, man, I would like to. What's your email again, man? Because I got a couple of things I'm trying to get going business-wise, dealing with education. I just want to run some ideas past real quick, get some feedback.
Okay. Yeah, my email is house HOUSEOFEL @hotmail.com. House of L at hotmail.com.
Okay, I'm gonna try to hit you within the next couple of days, man.
Sound good, man.
Yes, sir.
Okay, King.
Peace. All right, peace, brother.
Peace, King. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Peace, man. I'm on. I hear you.
Oh, all right. There was an earthquake in PR on Sunday. You heard about that? Yeah. And the algae was blue-green algae that they used up for the first Exxon spill in the 80s.
Yes, sir.
Blue-green algae.
Yes, sir. Which is really good in terms of it's kind of like chlorophyll and what it does for the body. So for the earth, it does as well. But yeah, that earthquake that released that oil that came out, so you think they could just scoop that off the top, right? And then dump it over the thing. But they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to scoop it up, put it into some type of plant, and either sell it to the natural food companies, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they ain't going to use it for the oil.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's it. But you know what was amazing when you talked about that the second biggest Olmec head they found in PR, and then now they have this 5.8 earthquake down there, and people next door in St. Croix don't even know about it.
Nah, because they're keeping them quiet because all of the Caribbean is under this they call it CARICOM.
Yeah.
Which is like a fake
NAFTA.
It's like a fake United Nations for the Caribbean. But some Caribbean nations is now trying to hook up with the South American alliance thing. They're trying to get them involved in that, so they're being pulled in both directions. So definitely be careful.
Yeah. All right. Peace.
Thank you, King.
You're welcome.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace. You rock with Super Heru Radio. You there? Anybody
Hello?
there?
Hello.
Peace, Queen.
Oh,
peace, Queen.
Hi. Peace. All right, I'm good. I was just curious if you were aware of the shooting that just took place. I guess it was Sunday. The little girl, the 7-year-old little girl that was shot.
Yeah, when the police ran in the house.
Yeah, I mean, that was just heartbreaking, but I was just wondering, did you do the knowledge on that? I mean, I know stuff like this happens all the time. But it was just, it just really caught my attention.
Real. That's part of the same program that we were talking about with the little black boys.
Okay.
First of all, bless the dead for all of the little children that have been killed.
Right.
Sacrifice these beasts. You know what I'm saying? For doing the devilishment they doing. You know what I mean? They definitely gonna come back in a whirlwind. But on a practical note, guns just don't discharge, okay?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Even Rusty, anybody who has ever held a gun, even Rusty serial numbers filed off guns, they don't go off like that.
Right.
They go off with like pull the trigger. So when they came in the room, maybe what happened was the little girl turned over and she moved suddenly, and then he popped her thinking it was something else, or they just ran in there to do it, to just kill.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
A child. Because remember, the police are part of the FBA, which is the Fraternal Order of Police, which is a Masonic organization which deals in ritual sacrifice.
Okay.
Last year alone, there was over 60 ritual killings that went on in Masonic lodges where people was getting initiated with using guns, people getting killed.
Really?
So this is part of this is part of what goes on. This is also shows you the problem with modern day what people call law enforcement.
Exactly.
There is no law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? There's only public policy enforcement. And the public policy is to terrorize the populace into submission. So acts such as these create situations where, let's say this man is a father who has now lost his child, his first instinct is to kill any cop he sees. You see what I'm saying? But if he do that, then he now gets killed or thrown in jail or whatever else. So what this does to the psyche of the black male is it makes us seem socially impotent. You see what I'm saying? Because if we wild it out and riot and do whatever else, they still now have the means to kill all of us, and that's what they want to do. But they're never going to all of us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But what you're seeing, the Tea Party stuff, the Arizona stuff, this is all white America's death rattle. This is white America's, or Western society's death rattle in the sense that it can no longer rule the way it did, in which the Caucasoid archetype is the dominant. So while all the Caucasians now is trying to become black people, like if you want to see a hip-hop act, you got to watch Ellen. But if you want to see a white pop act, you watch Oprah. You see what I'm saying?
I know, because Helen does her whole hip-hop dance, every time she starts her show. That's
right,
crazy.
because as a lesbian, she is identifying with the hip-hop generation the same way the feminist lesbians identify with the black civil rights movement.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So they are trying to graft themselves back in. So these children that they're sacrificing to do it, you know what I mean? In this case, let's say with the police, as soon as it happened, you see how they put the black police chief.
Oh, I know. I saw that. Yeah.
See that, right?
Yeah.
Because if they showed the white guy, if they showed the white guy, then the black people would have been like, see, these are some white people. Even though white people was the ones that did it, they still will look at it as some black man against a black man shit. You see?
Exactly.
So, yeah, man, I've been keeping it. But thanks for your call on that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing the knowledge on that.
Thank you, Queen.
Okay, peace.
Peace. Peace. You rocking live with Super Heru Radio.
Hello?
Hello. You there?
Yeah.
What's up, G?
Oh, peace, dog.
Peace, dog. How you?
I'm doing fine, man. This is Kashi Paul from Brooklyn, New York.
Peace.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I just have three questions, dog. My first question is dealing with distractions, right? I remember the last couple of episodes ago you was talking about people not being human beings, right? And like things, I'm talking these things moving fast, right? Can you explain on that? That's one question. And my second question is like I'm really getting into like Noble Drew Ali teachings because I finished with like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like some of his teachings, and I want to know like what's the order? Should I go in it? Should I just dive in it? And another question, my last question is like I'm completely like re-educating myself, so I'm starting from like the first grade all the way up to the 12th grade because the shit that I'm learning, I'm dealing with now, is like I never dealt with it before, you know.
Right.
So it's like everything is new to me. Like I'm learning everything so easy now, you know.
Right. Because you're not really, because you're seeing yourself in what you're reading and you're applying what you're reading to yourself. So you know, your knowledge and the wisdom, which is creating the understanding for you to understand the culture, which is what you live in, you know. And then once you do that, the power, which is the truth that you're getting, is now refining everything that you are conceptually understanding. Because now you understand what the basic truth is, which then means now, because truth is power, it can make you very angry and make you very aggressive.
Yes.
That when you get to a certain understanding, you realize that truth without refinement turns into savagery, even though it's the truth. Like, you can know this some is the truth, but if you just do some shit off the cuff or whatever, that's still wrong, you know? It's still, because you could be right about something and not be correct. You dig what I'm saying? For instance, you could not like somebody and they not like you, and then you get in a fight with them. But then, let's say y'all agree to squash the fight. If you go back and start another fight with him, then even though y'all know the truth of y'all squashed it, you are now going back, which means that you acting like a savage. See what I'm saying? So once you get to that point, you can then get to a point of equality where you allow everything that you are obtaining to have a certain balance, you know what I mean, between what you know to be true and what you know to be false, or what you know to be devilishment, which then allows you to manifest God, you know what I'm saying, which then, forces you to now put yourself in the phase where you got to constantly be building and destroying. So you get in knowledge, you know what I'm saying, but at the same time, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm here.
Okay, so essentially, you wind up having to constantly be doing that, because once you build and destroy, what you're really doing is, clearing the way for you to born something that you can then cipher. You know what I'm saying? So the more you allow yourself the ability to take what it is you're learning and not become so emotionally, you know what I'm saying, angry, you know what I'm saying? Even though you know what I'm saying, like you're going to get angry about certain things.
Yeah.
Anger has the material essence and is very heavy, so it will allow you to not be light enough to see certain shit. That's how you get caught up.
Because like,
go ahead.
Because I've been noticing, like, you know, like when I first got into it, when I really got into it, like I had a battle with it myself, you know what I mean? But now, like, when I get into it, I'm starting to see, like, all the bullshit. You start to just see it, you know? Like, you like, oh, man, like, I never seen people this way before. Yeah, it's like people not even human beings, man.
Now is not the time to be on some bullshit, because if you are, it's going to get revealed quicker than it would have maybe 5, 3, 2 years ago. So remember, we're not in 24-hour days anymore. We're in, like, 13-hour days right now. You know what I mean? So, well, maybe not 13. We down to, like, maybe 16-hour days.
All right.
By 2012, it's going to be, like, 13-hour days. Because it's got to cycle down to that number, because it's got to cycle down to the magnetic frequency of the planet, which is 13 megahertz. So once we get to that 13 symbolically is knowledge, understanding, which is your culture, which is how you live your life, which then means that 2012, understanding 2012 as a concept, right, is already in the minds of the people, but they're being programmed to believe that it is going to be the end of them. When you, as God or Titan or Moor or Celestial or the physical representation of the unseen as the seen now, you know that there is no real death. There is no end to anything. It's just going to continue so long as you understand who and what you are. So the more you become dependent upon other things to validate you, the more locked down to this reality you're going to be. The more you look for other things in the universe to transmute and evolve you, you know what I'm saying, the more you're going to build to be born, you know.
I'm gonna go over what you said, man. Like, I'm gonna really try to sink it in, because, oh man, son, like,
it's knowledge, because essentially we have all who are participating in this experience on the level that we're on right now. We already there. You gotta sometimes give thanks for things like they already happened already. You gotta kind of almost walk around from the perspective that you already have that $1 million. You know what I'm saying? And literally, like, live like it's there and give thanks for it like that. I'm working on that. Because really the only thing we as the real conscious people don't really have is the dough. And we don't have the dough because we are the ones who started with the dough. So now we're towards the end of shit, because we're at the end of this reality. That means what we're supposed to really be doing is stripping ourselves of all this shit, which is why the whole hip-hop thing is all about money and sex and shit that's going to lock you down. Whereas, even though we're having this human experience, we are all preparing for this thing that we all feel coming, you know? So if we can get there together, great. But however we get there, when we're finally there, we can then all look at each other and know that it was times like this in which we supported each other that allowed us to get to that point. So you can give thanks just for the fact that everybody that's listening, that's on this on the type of conscience that we talking about, is keeping at least 20 to 33 square blocks around them, keeping people around them who they don't even know alive, just because of their magnetic resonance that comes off of them when they build on shit like this. You keeping people alive just by being in your crib reading about your culture. You understand?
Oh my God.
That's how powerful it is to be who and what we are. And we don't value, well, not we, but they, the proverbial they, don't really value it. So what they like to do is put it on like a coat and walk around in this shit like they really are about this thing, and they not. a lot of these people that talk a lot of this culture shit, they not down with it. They are agents of the opposite. But it's not for me, and it's not for anybody else to come out and just start just putting these niggas on blast, because now is not the time for that. Because what's going to happen is they all going to get revealed anyway. You just got to be patient enough and watch the signs to see when it happens. Like, look what happened with Ray Hagan.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Been outed, but Phil outed him like 5 years ago. You see what I'm saying? But when Phil did it, based on some people's perception of him, you know what I mean, they want to make it seem like he's doing some egotistical shit. When no, he was telling the truth, just like Ashraf Kwesi talked it. But again, Ashraf Kwesi was the one who initiated. You dig what I'm saying? So I'm saying that everything and everybody is subject to show and prove now. You dig? But at the same time, there's no reason why you, a conscious original man, or she, a conscious original woman, need to show and prove anything to a savage. You know what I'm saying? So to be in a situation and to debate or go against anybody's thing right now, you know what I mean, it coming from a state of ego is part of the illusion. So it's the people's job now to weed out who's who and what's what. But the only way the people are going to get to do that is by not entertaining and not putting their money into certain people's pockets, because that's the only way you're going to shut the agents out. Because so long as everybody feels that one ideology is the only ideology is going to be, we ain't never going to get nowhere.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
Okay. So thanks for that call, brother.
No, man. Thank you a lot, man. Peace, dog.
Peace.
Hello?
Peace. You on Super Heru Radio?
Hello?
Peace. Wait, hold on. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio? Peace. Anybody there? Maybe somebody from Peace. Anybody there? Can you hear me? Let's try this. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio? Anybody there? Okay, maybe just listening. Maybe somebody from Rigel or Cygnus X. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio?
Peace to the God.
Peace. Peace,
How
Lord.
are you?
How you? I'm good, King.
Doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, man. I appreciate you still coming on for another week, man. I missed you last week. I started to get a little concerned, but glad to see you back on the scene.
Thank you, King.
I came in about 45 minutes into the show. I don't know if you went in on a knowledge on what's happening with this oil spill down in the Gulf. Could you go in a little bit on what you thinking is happening with that?
Yeah, we basically, to reiterate, it was a torpedo hit from a mini sub North Korean make that was hit because of the whole North Korea South Korea thing that's been escalating since Michael Jackson, since the day Michael Jackson died. So this is all the thriller that's about to make it dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, the rig was made in South Korea by one of those corporations in South Korea that is a U.S. front, you know what I mean, for weapons development over there. So they basically just hit it. That's why there was no, like, when you hear the reports on it, they never say how the explosion started. They're just talking about the oil slick. They want to keep talking about the oil slick because they don't want to talk about how it happened. Because how it happened, you know, would then open up another can of worms for some other shit. But it's already chatter on what I'm talking about on the net and stuff anyway. You know what I'm saying? And international news like Reuters and these things.
Okay.
They certain people are whispering about it, but essentially, this is just the next level in the game, you know, of using humanitarian aid as a mask for warfare, you know. So it was hit by a Chinese mini-sub of what they call the 17th Sniper Command, or some name they got for it. But these dudes hit it and then bounced because they was already in the area based on the Haiti shit, because North Korea sent aid to Haiti through the Dominican Republic because they couldn't go into Haiti because the U.S. was there. That's why there was so many U.S. soldiers and shit down there, because, you know, they just in case they're trying to turn this into some new Bay of Pigs type shit or some, like, you know, Cuba type thing. They wanted to hold it down. So while they was there, they sent these mini-subs out to escort some of the ships. So these things was already in the water. So the reason why they finding it hard to really capture shit is because they don't know if these subs are still out there. You know what I'm saying? And if they try to lower some shit down, they might just hit it again. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is getting progressively worse. And in the interim of it, this comes right after Obama okayed the offshore drilling shit, which
right.
then lets me know, as a concerned citizen, wink, wink, it lets me know that the whole shit is a op anyway. You know what I'm saying?
So they
it's
wanted that
than
to go down.
Yeah, man. This is all part of the game. This is not no coincidence. These people. So at the same time, there was an earthquake where all this blue-green algae came up.
Puerto Rico, yeah, right next door.
Which is Mother Nature's way, right? Natural way of dealing with the white man's bullshit, right? But so all these niggas really got to do is go there with skimmer clip or clipper ships and skim the foam and shit off the top and start dumping it over the thing. If they can control, if they could seal the hole, but they don't know if they could get down there because it's so black they can't see if there's still subs there. But they can't tell nobody that they scared to do that, so they got to look like it's BP's fault. You understand?
Because I was looking at it from a different perspective with the whole Iceland volcano eruption.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it as they trying to retaliate on Mother Earth by allowing that shit to go down.
Yeah, I mean, symbolically, you know what I'm saying, that's going on too. But there's nothing they can do about that. And the volcano shit is getting worse. They just not talking about it in America. In Europe, there's a giant cloud over them niggas now.
Yep.
And it's only over the white folk. It ain't over nobody else. It's over these white folk. So because they can't fly through it and around it, what eventually is going to start happening is going to start condensing in the form of ash. You see? And it's going to start, and it's going to bury all of it the same way it did Pompeii, the same way it did all of Europe is going to be up under ash. Why? We ain't going to have to do nothing. You see, as soon as the shit with the oil slick happened, the earth make the earthquake, you know, and then the foam come up to fix it. But these white people ain't going to do that. What they're going to do, they're going to skim it off the top. They're going to put blue-green algae in a bottle and sell it to us. So, you know, we could drink the algae and shit, but we can't eat the fish. Like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, just do it. It's funny.
Makes sense from nonsense. Yeah, I get you, man. But I just wanted to say
thank you, man.
I just wanted to tell you, man, I appreciate what you're doing. I hope that you continue with it. Don't get discouraged with all the technical difficulties, man. You're doing a lot with what you're doing, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that too, King. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too, King. Peace. We coming down to the last 5 minutes, so we'll take one more quick. Peace. You now rock with Super Heru Radio. Peace. Peace, can you hear me? Peace, can you hear me?
I'm here.
I can hear you. I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Sorry. Peace, you know, Super Heru Radio.
Why you holler?
No, this ain't working. Try one more time. Peace, you know, Super Heru Radio. No, guess not. Well, this is what it is, y'all. I want to thank everybody, especially my brother, side by side, doing his thing, supporting himself, supporting his family. I really appreciate. Without him, this show wouldn't have been able to get as far as it has. So I want to definitely say Swat to him. Swat to, you know, everybody out there doing the work that's serious about, you know, getting out of this muck that we all find ourselves in, and always supporting and keeping everything real. I know it's hard, but I should say, however, we got to all learn how to really deal with our anger, you know what I'm saying, and be as real as we can be in the moment by moment, and not try to always project ourselves to be something that we're not trying to live other lives of people based on cloning, not hating on people because of their own situations or creating alternative means of useless conversations just to appease some insecurity we may have about what somebody is or isn't doing. These type of things are the things that we got to really work within ourselves to overcome, because those are the things that's really stopping us. You know, the white man is done. There's nothing else he could do. You know what I mean? And when I say the white man, I'm talking about the boule too. I'm talking about everybody. You know, Lena Horne just passed, and she was an embodiment of our set. You know what I'm saying? So that means that aspect of the veil or the illusion is gone. So symbolically, we need to be rejoicing now, which is why everybody's being exposed. You know what I'm saying? All your favorite celebrities got sex tapes. All your favorite celebrities participate in blood rituals. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them knowing and not knowing. You know, a lot of our family members, unfortunately, are doing that type of shit. You know what I mean? A lot of our pillars of our community are the police. You know what I'm saying? You got police, ex-police people giving you knowledge on Kemet. Like, how much are we going to take as not even a people, not even a race, not even a species, but as a mind pattern? You know what I'm saying? As a universal spirit, how much are we really gonna take, man? You know what I'm saying? We have allowed the movement to be turned into a minstrel show again. And the whack thing is that the whole thing is being done in the same pattern. Yet there's millions of tapes on how it got that way. So who was watching the tapes? What are we really watching? What are we really doing? What are we really investing? We as so-called conscious people are the backbone of the spirit of this nation, of its people, of everybody. And it's our lot to be that. So we're either going to do it for real or we not. We're either going to let people turn it into some BS or we not. Either way, I know, at least with speaking for myself and my family, we're going to do what we've been doing, you know what I mean, which is really just telling the truth. So, again, any rumors or any, discontent, malcontent that anybody have, we don't need to do a tape or whatever. I send peace and love to everyone, and we all going to get there together. So I think this week we may be on Friday, you know what I mean? So check your local listings to check and see if we'll be on Friday from 9 to 11, and that may be our new time for a while. But either way, we're going to keep it going. And I really appreciate all the support and all the donations and all of the unbridled enthusiasm for the ascension that we are all participants of. So, you know, in the name of the Most High, whatever name you want it to be, Mother, Father, God, I say peace. This is Super Heru Radio, signing out. Peace to my brother, Saga Assad. Thank you for everything. And, again, thank my queen, my children. And inshallah, we'll be on next week. You know, watch out for census workers with hard hats. Watch out for them, because they're cutting niggas' lines. All right? Peace.